Welcome to the Breathe the Belief podcast show where I am your host, Bree, and I am so grateful and excited and all of the things really just to talk to you today about self-acceptance. Like, self-acceptance is so freaking huge, and I'm really passionate about it because in my own journey, I know the exact opposite and what that feels like, and it doesn't feel good. So I was talking with a friend earlier, and it was this imagery of, okay, I want you to imagine waking up in your PJs Christmas morning, right? Now, hopefully that's a great image for you, and Christmas was amazing. However, the same feeling, okay? So imagine waking up in your PJs to like so many gifts and the feeling of love and abundance and excitement and just pure joy, right? Like that awe of like, oh my gosh, right? Just so lit up. Now take that feeling, hold it for a moment, imagine it, and then I want you to now switch gears, and I want you to imagine when you were younger, and I want you to imagine sitting alone at lunch while all the other kids go play on the playground and you're by yourself and no one sits by you because they don't like you, right? So now I want you to imagine that same feeling of being isolated on the playground during lunch and no one sits by you because you're not liked. And it's like, that feeling is really disempowered, it's alienation, it's isolation, it's just loneliness, and it's dark, and it's not fun, it's yucky, right? To feel cast out and like you don't belong. So those are the two imageries that are really like a good contrast for what I could help you see is actually happening internally when you don't accept yourself, right? Like they're pretty dramatic in contrast. One is like, yes, more excitement, passion, woo! Like super excited. It's like a countdown, right? Like 5 more hours until I get to wake up to Christmas, 3 more hours. And like, you're super excited. So you're like, peeking around and trying to be patient, but that joy, right? Like it just spills out of you. And when you love yourself and you accept yourself, that same radiation of light and passion and charisma and joy and just pure playfulness and really just awe, it overfloods. It actually really impacts everyone around you when you accept yourself. Now, when you don't accept yourself, it's those same feelings of alienation, disconnection, and isolation because you have literally been cut off, but from yourself. It's like there's this light and the light still exists, by the way. It's in you. It's who you actually are, but your brain will not allow for you to align, right? So it's like some days, and the reason I use those two analogies and those two different feelings is because some days, and I know you'll understand this, there's some days where you feel the yes and the excitement and the passion and the woo, and then there's other days where you're like, oh my gosh, shoot me, do I even make any difference being here in the world? Does anyone even freaking care? It's like these extremes. And I like to imagine that that's how we feel when we're not fully accepting ourselves. Like those feelings are happening simultaneously at the same time when you're not fully embodied in acceptance. I believe the only reason that we swing the pendulum that extreme is because the disconnection and isolation and disempowerment happens when we're not fully accepting of who we are. So it's like, I've said this before, but it's like 1 foot on the gas and 1 foot on the brake. And one day you can feel like that child waking up to pure bliss and to life and feeling good. And then there's other days where you're like, man, I don't even want to be here. I don't care if no one reaches out today. You know that feeling when you're just so shut off that like any kind of connection almost feels like a burden to even talk to people some days or be in public is like, yuck. And I feel like, in my own experience, the only reason we get to that state of like dissatisfaction or disconnection is when we're not fully accepting ourselves. And that is a really really deep conversation and topics, so bear with me. I went deep really fast because it's efficient. And not only that, but it's really good to just be honest with the fact that there are days when it is really hard to accept yourself, especially when your eyes and your mind get in the way. So for me, my eyes were always in the way. It was like my body image was like bad, like body dysmorphia, really, really bad. So it was really hard to accept myself when I was overweight, or it was really hard to accept myself when I didn't have enough money in my bank account, whatever the fact. It was really hard to accept myself when I wasn't meeting the standards that my mind had, or these like expectations that I was carrying of myself. And what I didn't know back then, the unawakened Brie, was trying to chase feeling good enough. And again, self-acceptance isn't a role of accepting what you can do. It's acceptance of who you are in all of your totality. So again, that's not just loving your best foot forward. Acceptance is loving yourself when you are in the mess and you are in the chaos, you are in the pain, you are in the discomfort, you are the person that feels alienated sitting alone at lunch, right? Like you are the person who whatever, loving yourself even in those circumstances. So on social media, you'll get the message that self-love is vanity. Self-love is what is acceptable to you when you look a certain way, or when you have the things based on what everyone else's material success looks like. That's a really distorted measurement of self-love. And then you see these memes, right, that are like, love yourself and like treat yourself. And I believe in self-care. I actually have a free webinar on the 3 easy steps to self-acceptance. So go check out my social media. There are so many women and men who are putting themselves on the back burner, believing that accepting themselves and loving themselves is like this illusional fantasy, like of, okay, yeah, right. Like it's just so overused that when it's talked about, it's not sinking in because it's so overused, right? Like we talked about before, the word love loses its meaning because it's so misused. Like how many times do we say love every single day? I love pizza. Oh, I love the gym. Oh, I love this, or I love that, right? Like, so then when you're like looking for love, you're like, well, what the heck is it, right? So self-acceptance isn't vanity. Self-acceptance isn't just when things are good, right? When you only love yourself when you're hitting those standards and when things are good, that's what I mean by the two polar energies are at force and in competition with themselves. Because there are days that you've been really, really good and you feel like you're meeting up to the standards of the world. And then the other times that you're not meeting those expectations, you're like, I feel like a loser again. So you're constantly swinging the pendulum of I'm high, I'm low, I'm high, I'm low, because you don't accept yourself in the dark, in the shadow, in the heart of the totality of really just your past, your pain, your experience, your story. And so the way to shift this is really, really simple. And I believe that self-acceptance happens internally, because if we know that the external world is telling us and communicating with us why we're a loser or why we're freaking excited and powerful and have all this potential, if we let the external world communicate that to us, then we're always at loss for feeling again enough. And when you have that happening, then who the heck is able to say, yeah, I fully accept myself? And guys, I have been on this journey and a coach and a mentor in my last career for years, many, many years. And I still, to this day, will catch myself in that loop. But when you have awareness of where you're not accepting yourself, it's really freaking fun, because you can snap out of it like you can snap out of anything, right? Like you actually can choose to have that same excitement of waking up in your PJs on Christmas morning every single day, no matter what the external plane shows you. But you have got to first figure out who the heck you are, because in order to accept you, then that would require that you know who you are. Right? And this is deep, because I don't think a lot of people, unless you have hunger or have had an awakening or have had an experience that calls for it, you kind of go through life sleepwalking, right? And you go into the pattern of, well, this is what I did yesterday, and this is what I did last month, and this is what I'd done last year. This is what I've always done. So this is who I am. And it's crazy because if I ask you who you are and you're not allowed to tell me what you do for a living, or, where your placement is in your family line, or where you're from, or what mask you play in public, like what answer would you be able to reveal to me? Like, who are you? Right? And this takes effort, because in order to accept you, you're going to get very clear on who you are. And here's the trick. People don't want to hear this. Here's the trick. You have to know who you are not first. And when you discover who you are not, that's a really empowering place to be. And that's why I say acceptance isn't just when you're doing good, because when you figure out who you are not, right, it might not measure up to what you thought you wanted. So I want to ask you, if you were struggling in the department of relationships right now, and your heart is broken, and you're going through a divorce, or you're going through a breakup, or your love relationship's kind of dead, or there's not really a whole lot of feeling, or if you're struggling in the money department, right, and you're like trying to figure out your career, or you're not saving enough money, or you feel like you've been capped at the same amount for X amount of years, or if you're struggling with the health department and you're like not where you want to be, like mentally or even physically, and you hate your body and you're not where you actually feel like you feel vital, whatever department you're struggling in, I can almost guarantee you that no matter what department you feel the struggle is in, there is a shadow or a place that you have not fully accepted yourself in. Okay, and I want to get this really just down to the nitty and the gritty, because you can only chase the light for so long. So I don't want to pick on health, but it just makes the most sense, because that's where I really hated myself. Like, for all you women that feel weird, like getting out of the shower and don't even look at yourself naked in the mirror, like, go do that, because that alone will challenge where you have been holding back on loving yourself and not accepting yourself, right? But you're so focused on the light, which is where you're going, right? Like, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to set up the structure and plan to get there. I'm going to chase the light, but I'm not willing to look at where I am. I'm not willing to accept where I am. And that slows down your growth more than anything else ever. And here's why. You haven't accepted where you're at. So it already breeds the fact that you're setting a goal in a negative connotation because of something you don't want. Now, I know this because I've done it. And at the time, I had went through a bikini competition and had gained 20 pounds back in 1 week. Like, I'm talking 1 week, not 3. A lot of it was water weight, but still, psychologically, that screwed with my brain. So getting out of the shower and looking yourself in the mirror is like, oh my gosh, I hate what I see, right? A lot of women struggle with this. So they want me to give them a diet plan, or again, some kind of structure that will get them to the light. And what I really want to do is like, let's look at what you view as dark, because that's where you're withholding love. So if you were to accept that you were 50 pounds overweight right now and fully accept it, then no longer does it have control over you, because you're okay with where you're at. Most people don't accept the thing or the department struggle that they're in because they believe that if they accept where they're at, that it will take away the drive to aspire to be more. So let that sink in. If you accept what you don't want, you believe by accepting what you don't want, it will take away your drive to chase after the thing. And it doesn't. That's actually not the truth. In fact, all it does is it removes the tension, right? Because I gave you 2 different examples of 2 different energies that were competing. One is like really lit up, really excited, really passionate, really like, ah! And the other one was like, oh my gosh, I feel disconnected, loser, alienation, disconnection, all the things. And when you accept what you don't want, now there's no longer competition. Now all you do is you have a straight shot at what you do want because you accepted what you don't want. So all it does is eliminate the chaos. It doesn't actually prevent you from having a desire to better your life, because that same woman who's willing to look in the mirror and accept her body with all the cellulite and all of the, flub and all of the stretch marks and all of the things it's been through. The woman who's willing to love her body and accept herself in the skin she's in right now is not going to go on a treadmill and run for 15 hours and self-punish and continue self-hate and then go do it again the next day, avoid the mirror, and then go do self-hate, because now she's not operating from acceptance. Now she's running from herself. Do you see the difference? And you can apply that to money. You can apply that to really anything. It's not just about, oh, hey, let's focus on just the health. It is in all things. And so I want to invite you to look at the things that are really causing you chaos and ask yourself, where am I limiting my self-worth? Where am I limiting my beliefs? Sometimes the self-acceptance comes from really just following your passions, even if it looks different to your family members and your friends and people that you've known for a long time. Like, just because you're really good at something doesn't mean you enjoy it, right? And just because everyone else is doing things doesn't mean that you have to join in. And sometimes you have to accept your own uniqueness. And acceptance is a really broad word for a really unique person, right? Like, someone who has gifts may not know what they are until the gifts are uncovered. And so that's why I say in the 3 steps to actually fully accepting yourself, step 1 is discovering who the heck you actually are. And I help people do that process. I have so many free goodies on what that looks like and where you can go and do self-discovery on your own and get into some really fun things. Because to be honest with you, I wasn't looking to learn about myself until my second divorce. I knew that I had to wake up to who the heck I actually was and look at why I was making decisions, because until you do that, you just base your self-worth and your self-acceptance based on how well you're doing in the world and your achievements and your progress. But you're not actually looking internally with a flashlight going, okay, what does my heart enjoy and what is my soul aligned with and what does my mind get really, really intrigued by and what lights me up and what can I do for 12 hours a day without stopping? And the list goes on and on and on. And on the flip side of that, getting to know yourself is okay, what habits do I have in place that aren't healthy? What patterns do I operate from my parents and from their set of patterns? What patterns of theirs did I take on that are preventing me from being who I fully am? What attachment styles do I operate with? And where am I codependent? And where is the self-sabotage showing up? And when you can love yourself, even when you're aware that you're self-sabotaging, you're self-betraying, you're not owning your potential, when you can do that, then you have mastered self-acceptance. Because it's saying, I'm willing to peel back the labels of what I do for work and where I live in the world and how many children I have and how happy I make my spouse and how fit I am and how much money I earn. When I'm willing to remove all labels, who am I? And when I know that answer, am I willing to love myself, right? Step number 2 is really, really interesting as well, because once you actually start to discover who you are, it's going to require that you let go of all the things that you are not. Because then you start to realize oh, I've been living this way and that doesn't serve me anymore. So now I get to let go and shed. And I love the analogy of the snake over and over again, because they are going to shed skin multiple times in their life. And it doesn't mean that it's not painful. And so a woman would ask me, well, why would I choose to endure pain? And I'm saying, well, that's just one paradigm. Shedding old skin doesn't have to be painful. In fact, I think it's really uncomfortable and painful to stay in skin that no longer serves you, right? We can look back on our journey and be really grateful for the experience and It doesn't mean we're leaving it behind. It means we're taking the knowledge that we gained from the experience, but we get to choose to show up differently. And when you do that, you stop looking for permission on the outside world to just be who you are, right? And step number 3 is really just having the courage to act, because until you build trust within yourself, you're going to be wobbly. You're going to be shaky. You're not going to accept all that you are in the darkness and the light because you don't have your own back. And the way to have your own back is to continue to build trust on the things that you know and the things that your inner voice is guiding you to do. And I teach that process on how to hear that. And here's the truth. When you have courage, you're unstoppable. Like, unstoppable. The potential that you can embody in this life without force, push, prove, and dominate blows my mind when you're just aligned with the things that are for you. And if it's not feeling like it's this flow of a river and it feels like it's an uptrug, like you're hiking up these mountains and it's hard and it's heavy and it's like a lot of effort, like there's a difference between effort and alignment. So don't get them confused. Our goals do take effort, but aligned effort isn't painful. There's not suffering in that. There's only suffering when we hold on to things that are no longer a part of our new experience, right? And I heard this analogy that I love so much. And the idea is that if you're trying to up level and become something new, imagine you're in an elevator. When you're on floor 1 and you want to go to floor 10, you're no longer hanging out with people on level 1. Now, when you get to level 10, you're now hanging out with people on level 10. Now, does that mean that people on level 1 are bad? No, it's not bad or right. It's just a fact. You no longer are hanging out with people on level 1. Doesn't mean that you didn't know them, didn't love them, it didn't serve its purpose. In fact, level 1 was the reason that you were able to get to level 2. And so you release the need to hold on to all of the things that are keeping you like heavy or like down. And once you release it, you have courage to trust yourself that the next step is the right step for you, even if you get pressure from society or culture or family or the outside world that says you're doing the wrong thing. And especially those that follow their dream, because you cannot ask a giraffe the view of a turtle. They don't have the same vision. So when the giraffe bends over to talk to the turtle, did you actually know that his heart rate could stop? I love analogies because I understand how they work with our subconscious mind. So I give you as many images as I can to help you understand that it's okay to let go and not feel like you're on the same plane, like a giraffe on the plane, same ground, right? Like the giraffe and the turtle are on the same ground, right? Equality, but they don't have the same vision. The giraffe isn't going to ask the turtle like, hey, what do you think I should do? Never. In fact, if anyone's asking anyone, it's the turtle that would be willing to ask the giraffe, but that doesn't even make sense because they're not designed to have the same vision or go the same places. So you have to find like-minded people. And I think that really comes down to accepting who you are first, getting solid in who you are first, rooting your roots down like a tree and getting planted and firm in who you are, so that when you do change and the leaves fall and your beliefs drop and you bear new fruit and you have this experience of life in all cycles, it's perfect because you're unshakable. And people will come and they'll go, and that's okay because the identity of even things like a tree doesn't change. Right? And so self-acceptance is saying, okay, I accept all of me. And in this season of my life, I don't love the experience that I'm having. I don't love the pain I'm noticing. I don't love the story I'm telling myself. I don't enjoy this feeling of isolation and disconnection and eating my lunch alone on the freaking park, right? Or at the park or on a playground. But it is having compassion for where you're at and accepting what you don't want so you can get clear on what you do want. And it's loving that part of you that feels disconnected. And once you stop disconnecting from yourself, then you have more agency to live in the other energy most of the time. Life isn't perfect, but the energies don't have to be so bipolar opposite. We don't have to swing the pendulum, but we can even it out a lot easier and live in that bliss of excitement and wonder and awe and joy and thrill if we're willing to bring in all parts of us, right? And so no, you're not just one thing, and no, you're not your body, and no, you're not what you do for a living, and no, you're not how good you can perform, and no, you're not just an achiever. And no, you're not just your name and your age and this is how life is. You're not any of those things. And what's really amazing is that if you believe that, you'll start to see that you're a creator. You are creating the experiences that you're having. So I invite you to come out of victim mentality. I have a 3-step, super easy process on how to freaking love yourself and accept yourself, very easy in more detail. These are just the nuts and the bolts and the 3 main nuggets, which is A, find out who you are. I have lots of resources for that, so reach out to me. B, which is really just releasing the things that no longer serve you and getting clear on what those things are. And then 3, having the courage to act, because once you build the trust within yourself, you're unshakable. And that process will dramatically change your life and fast. Right? Like sometimes I think people believe that change has to happen in a 10-year span or in 5 years, and it's going to take this lengthy time before they can change. You're one decision away from changing your entire life, and it starts with you. So I invite you to go look in my bio. I have a free webinar, so sign up there if you would love to do so there. I also have a one-on-one discovery call. I am so excited to find out what you're struggling with and why it's so hard for you to love yourself and why you think it's like a gold winner to start bashing on yourself and criticizing yourself and blaming yourself and judging yourself. Like, there's no freaking award for that. Like, stop doing that to yourself. Just stop. Another thing I invite you to do is to share this podcast with whomever you feel needs it, woman or man, because once you understand that self-worth is not predicated on how happy you make others feel and what you're able to accomplish, then you get to bring in all parts of you and operate from a wholeness, a totality, a complete desired feeling versus feeling isolated and alone and in complete low self-worth and low self-esteem, and then attracting experiences that match that vibration. So I encourage you every single day to commit to yourself, because it is a daily practice. I mean, you're already committed to 10 things a day. And if you're not in one of those 10 things, we have to rearrange our priorities. It shouldn't be that there's life and then if there's time, you, because your life only gets better when you take care of you, because you're the main star in your freaking show, right? Like, you're the main character. So it doesn't make sense to burn out and to go give when we don't have things to give just to try to prove our worth that way either. So I invite you to commit to yourself, to inspire someone to listen to this, to tell me how you feel that you're able to give yourself self-acceptance, even in dark places. And then I also have a link if you're interested on a program that I'm offering. That's a very, very in-depth training with masterminds and all fun stuff. If you want a one-on-one call, I've got all of the goodies down below. Go click on my bio. And by the way, it is Monday. So the last thing I feel inspired to share with you is that it's never too late to start over. Not waiting for another day, not waiting for another week, not waiting for another month. Just make a decision today. Freaking empower yourself. Make a decision to do something today that you've wanted to do for 20 years. And tell yourself all the reasons why you can't do it, and then tell yourself that's a lie and just decide to do it, because you are worthy and you belong and you are loved. So I hope you have an incredible week, and until we talk, I hope you have a good one.